Good afternoon and a warm welcome to the CAUFP Youth Speaker Series in partnership with Marsh McLennan. My name is Charmaine Bryan and I serve as Director of Social Media on the CAUFP board and moderator for the panel discussion this afternoon. Thank you to CAUFP board members and the Marsh McLennan team for organizing this amazing event and putting together this dynamic panel. We will start with the panel discussion for about 30 minutes, and this will be followed by questions from the audience. And make sure you have your questions ready to type in the chat. And once we wrap up, it will move over into networking with the Marsh recruitment team, who will lead the breakout rooms sessions on risk, investment, and HR. So first up, let's introduce our panelists. Welcome, Jackie Parchment. Jackie is the Chief Executive Officer of Mercer Canada, where she leads Canada's 1,000 employees from coast to coast. Jackie's goal is to empower Mercer's Canadian colleagues to provide industry-leading service and innovative solutions to clients across the health, wealth, and career businesses to foster company growth. Jackie has more than 30 years of experience in the retirement savings and investment areas. And second, let's welcome Sarah Robson, who is President and CEO of Marsh Canada Limited. They have 13 offices across Canada and over 1,000 colleagues. And prior to her role, Sarah was based in New York and managed her overall Marsh relationship with AIG on a global basis. Sarah managed relationships across AIG at the senior executive level and worked to find appropriate solutions for Marsh's clients' continuously changing needs. Sarah has been in the insurance industry for over 30 years and has experience as both a broker and an underwriter. So over to you, Jackie. Tell us about your career path and how you got to where you are today.
Thank you so much, Charmaine. Great to be here and great to be here with my friend Sarah. You'll notice that we're both wearing orange, and that is, of course, to show support and solidarity with the First Nations community at this difficult time. So I've had a really interesting career at Mercer and a little bit before Mercer. I didn't actually know exactly what I wanted to be when I grew up. I'm an immigrant from Jamaica, moved here when I was 14, and so I chose to study mathematics and actuarial science when I got out of school because I was really interested in a career path that I thought would lead me to getting a great job because that was important for me and for my family. So I started out my career as an actuarial student doing analysis, a lot of work around risk. And though I liked it, I found that I didn't love it. So I actually took a little bit of a segue. I went to work for an insurance company in client management, and I found that was really my passion. My passion was being able to tell a story that was pretty complex in a way that others could understand. And that was an interesting point in my journey, because I think very often when you're just graduating from university, you kind of think, I'm going to go and get that first job, and it's going to be, you know, a series of very predictable moves. And what I found over my career is that doing different things, taking on different responsibilities that aren't always necessarily a promotion, but lead to taking on different skills. That's been really wonderful for me. So I missed consulting. I came back to consulting via Mercer in their investments business, had so many roles in that business. And something else that I think might be interesting is that initially I did not put myself forward for leadership or for people management. I didn't necessarily see myself in that way, but was fortunate that I had great mentors who leaned in and pulled and said, Jackie, we think you'd be great in these roles. And so got that experience. And after a couple of rounds of being a leader, I loved it and have continued ever since. So at Mercer, one thing we really focus on is understanding that different people view promotion and opportunity in different ways. It's quite common actually for women and for people of color to be not as aggressive in putting themselves forward. I think that comes maybe from not seeing ourselves as often as we see others depicted as leaders. And so we know that it's really important to create an environment where we make it easier for people to put themselves forward, or where we'll also approach people if we think there's a job that's great for them. After a number of roles in investments, I actually left and I came back. I'm a boomerang. That's actually really common at my firm. One in five people that we hire are people who left us to try something different, missed us, and came back. And I was actually recruited by my admin assistant, who called me and said, hey, we miss you, Jackie. There's this great role coming up. We think you'd be fabulous for it. She called our CEO. The CEO called me. I came back, and I'm on my third role since. So another message that I want to convey is that we have an environment where everyone is empowered to watch out for each other, to support each other, to hunt for talent, and to let us know where talent exists. So now I have the great privilege of serving as leader of all of our employees, and wonderful to be able to do that and to live Mercer's purpose. And I think we'll be talking a little bit more about that later on.
Oh, that's wonderful. I mean, what you highlighted there about having mentors and sponsors, that's just so important, especially as you were saying, as a Black woman and not necessarily seeing yourself in those roles. So that is great that, you know, you got to where you are today, and quite a story that your assistant recruited you. So. And Sarah, what about you? Would love to hear about your career journey.
Well, thank you, Charmaine, and thank you for inviting me to participate. And always great to be able to spend some time with Jackie as well. And you know, you do events like this, and then you learn about your colleagues as well, which is fantastic. Jackie just filled in a few gaps for me on her journey, which is terrific. And there are actually quite a few similarities there in terms of our journeys. I too, when I came out of school, I did an economics degree, probably more because I come from a family of economists, and so it just seemed like the natural thing to do. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do when I graduated from Queen's, and so it was on-campus recruiting, and so I got exposed to a number of interviews, and in particular in the financial services industry, both insurance companies as well as on the banking side. I wasn't sure. Since I was about 10 years old, I had wanted to be a lawyer. I think I grew up watching the Paper Chase series, if anybody remembers that. And but I was also interested in pursuing potentially a business degree as well. And I thought, well, if I'm unsure of what it is that I'd like to do, then what I really should do is get some experience to be able to put that, try and focus in on which of those I'd prefer to do. And so I ended up as a trainee with one of the insurance companies, with Chubb Insurance. It was a role where I was underwriting the risk of boards of directors. So, and it's called Directors and Officers Liability Insurance. So we were providing the insurance to boards of directors, both public companies as well as private companies, and a lot of not-for-profits as well. And I found that was a fantastic opportunity to combine my interest in law as well as my interest in business. But similar to Jackie, I decided I wanted a little bit of a timeout. I actually, 2 years into it, I left Chubb during the summertime, and I had written my LSATs, to go to law school with the idea of going to law school, and never went to law school. I didn't plan my career particularly. Marsh actually called and said, would you be interested in coming to Marsh? And so I ended up at Marsh. I've now been with Marsh for 28 years. Similar to Jackie, I'm a boomerang as well. I left the firm for 4 years and went back onto the underwriting side with one of the insurance companies, and then came back 1 month before 9/11. And I've been with Marsh ever since. As Charmaine said, highlighted, I've been sort of back and forth between Toronto and New York. Something that Jackie said, it really is important to find your passion. And I certainly found that passion with working with boards of directors and on the insurance side. And I did not particularly plan what my next opportunity was going to be. But I think what was really critical was that I was open to opportunities. And so to Jackie's point, they're not necessarily in exactly the progressive steps that you think they're going to be in. But that really broadened my skill set. And so I'd encourage everybody to, first of all, to pursue your passion, but also be open to something that might be new, might be a little bit outside of your comfort zone. I earlier in my career suffered from the imposter syndrome. I was absolutely convinced that somebody at some point was going to discover that I really wasn't as effective or appropriate for a role as I was. And I, similar to Jackie, was incredibly fortunate to have some great mentors and sponsors, not only within my company, but also clients as well. And that's one of the great things in working with the firms that we're with, is that you get to know your clients very well, and they see what you're capable of as well. And so that was really helpful for me in terms of getting over the imposter syndrome. So 28 years in with Marsh, glad to be back, and I'm just thrilled to be able to return to Canada, which is home for me, and be able to lead Marsh. And Jackie and I actually both came into our roles within about 6 months of one another, and so we've been on a journey together of learning how to be CEOs together, which has been a wonderful journey, and looking forward to what the next steps are for both of us too.
Well, that's fantastic that you've got each other in the organization to lean on and support each other and have the similar journeys that you've had. And I think it says a lot about the organization that you've both left and come back and been with the organization for the significant amount of time that you have done. So, to me, that always speaks volumes to me. Okay, so please tell us about the work that Mercer and Marsh are doing for Canadians.
Do you want me to go first, or Charmaine? Does it matter?
Yeah, Jackie, you can go first.
Yeah. So I think across all our sister companies, and Mercer and Marsh are our sister companies. I think Sarah will talk a little bit more about that in a minute. We're really proud that everything that we do allows us to live a purpose, and our purpose is to make a difference in the moments that matter for Canadians. And so at Mercer, the way we do that is in the context of supporting corporations in terms of what they do for their employees, how they pay their employees, how they support the wellness and health of their employees, and how they support the financial wellness of their employees. So we do a lot of work on HR strategy, on helping employers set fair compensation, help them set great career paths for their colleagues. We also help them design benefit and wellness programs. More and more of that work is digital. And last but not least, we help them create great pension and savings plans so that their employees can have financial security. We also have a great business in investments. So working with the assets that back many of the retirement programs of our clients, pension plans, but also endowments and other large pools of money. So really some really interesting work that also allows, very importantly, our people to feel that they're truly contributing to moving Canadians forward.
Maybe I'll round out then before I go into Marsh specifically. You've heard the reference to Marsh McLennan, And Marsh McLennan is our organization. That's the one that is actually publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange. And we are a leading professional services firm in the areas of risk strategy and people. There are four main organizations underneath that banner, and you heard Jackie talk about Mercer. There's Marsh as well, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And then there are also two other organizations, Guy Carpenter, which develops risk and reinsurance and capital strategies for the insurance companies themselves. And so that's Guy Carpenter. And then we've also got Oliver Wyman, which offers strategic, economic, and brand advice to both the public sector as well as the private sector. A lot of government clients as well, and so that's our consulting arm, if you would. So with Marsh specifically, we act as the advisors for clients of all different sizes. So whether or not it's a large global organization that is headquartered in Canada, or it could be a middle market size company, could be a family-run company, it could be a small, medium enterprise as well. So Marsh is involved in advising and procuring the insurance for those organizations to protect their risks. And there's a whole, beyond just the going into the market and representing the client's risk and obtaining quotations, we also do a lot of specialty work as well. And so we will work with our clients to help them mitigate risk and design risk management programs, and then help them also determine from a financial perspective how much of that risk they might want to transfer to the insurance marketplace, how much they may want to retain, and work with them in that way. And so insurance, really, the world does not operate without insurance. You might think of your own personal lines insurance. You might have a tenant's package if you're living in an apartment, and you're going to have to insure your car as well. But the risks for organizations, corporate organizations, are much broader. And so we've certainly seen how what we do matters and enables the economy to actually function. So we really do make a difference in the moments that matter as well. And as we talk through the pandemic, I'll share a couple of stories of how we've specifically contributed to the Canadian economy.
Yeah, it sounds like you really well and truly covered in all aspects of life, which again, with your the overall organization. So let's move on to the pandemic. So thinking back to March 2020, what were the priorities as leaders at the onset of the initial COVID-19 lockdown? How did you react?
You want to take that one first, Sarah?
I was going to say, I remember that week very, very well. Jackie and I were sitting side by side throughout the whole week. We started meeting as a leadership team, and I referenced the four companies, and so within Toronto, but across Canada, within Toronto, we've got the CEOs of each of the companies, and so we got together to make sure that we were consistent in being able to, first of all, ensure that our colleagues were going to be appropriately and safe. And so the week leading up to the decision of our global organization to actually go into lockdown and move entirely globally 76,000 employees to work from home, which literally happened over a weekend. And the well-being and livelihood of our colleagues was paramount for us, both early in the pandemic as well as the whole way through today. Our main priority is keeping our people safe and healthy, and transitioning them in that first week out of the physical office into the work from home environment. And so we did that very effectively. We were also very fortunate. We are very fortunate to work for an organization that right from the first day that we were in work from home, focused and came out publicly and said that a priority was on preserving as many colleagues' jobs and compensation as possible. A lot of organizations, including our competitors, made significant cuts, either in terms of pay or in terms of actual people and roles. And we were lucky to work for an organization who said security, job security through the pandemic is important. And I think that really, it was sort of that corporate blanket feeling of security, if you would, that allowed our colleagues to be able to therefore truly focus on their family needs, knowing that they were going to be safe, as well as being able to focus on our work and being able to support our clients. And so we established, a strategy where we were meeting every single day. Each of our individual companies, my own executive committee met every day, but as a broader leadership group, Jackie, myself, and the other leaders would meet to make sure that we were sharing best practices. You've heard, a key part of Mercer's offering is that they advise clients on how to appropriately design wellness and employee benefits packages. And we did a lot of work in that way in drawing on Mercer's expertise to be able to apply that and bring those same benefits to our colleagues that were definitely needed through that time. So Jackie, maybe you want to take on a little bit more on the wellness side, because we came together really, really well to support our colleagues there.
Yeah, so for us, it was incredibly important that we not have a single colleague who might worry that they had COVID or might worry that they had a sick child and was worried about how they would figure it out or how they would access medical care. So we pivoted really quickly to put in digital telemedicine benefits, and then we went digital everything, digital physio. We had a program, still do, that supports individuals who are worried about their elderly parents, and we made that virtual. So we had so much support in terms of mental health. We already had a lot of that, but we recognized the need to layer on even more. So we just put in every possible benefit or solution that we thought would allow people to be well and to reduce anxiety, even to the point of paying, child psychologists to speak to our employees and address concerns they may have with their children. And we're really grateful that we were able to do that, and that our colleagues were able to feel safe and secure.
Yeah, that's that really must have been so reassuring to your colleagues, knowing that offer was in place for them, especially as, thinking back to last year, times were just so uncertain. No one knew what was going to happen from day to day. So knowing that you're working for an organization that was committed to not only keeping your jobs, but providing the benefits to ensure that your mental wellness was taken care of. And can you expand on how the pandemic impacted how you supported and engaged your people?
Yeah, so, I think it's a lot of what we just said, and the results showed in our engagement, right? It was making sure that they were well, that they were safe, and that at the same time, we recognized that we do something that's really important for Canadians. So we needed to support our clients as well. And what was powerful for us was for our people to feel the difference. We just kept innovating and innovating and innovating on new benefits that would support colleagues. And so our colleagues were all feeling that. And at the same time, they were talking to clients about how to support their employees in the same way. So there was this really strong connection to purpose that I think was incredibly important. And we were able to help clients, help Canadians, but also, if you feel you have a really great purpose and you're doing something good, it helps mental health as well, right? So.
Yeah, if I can add to that as well, our Marsh's purpose is to protect and promote possibility for our clients, our colleagues, as well as our communities. And that purpose really underpinned our approach to supporting and engaging colleagues during the pandemic. And we really lived that purpose. We wanted to make sure that we were creating a safe community for our colleagues in particular. And so we started out that I wanted every single colleague to have a touch point with somebody else within the organization every single day, because nobody was used to working exclusively from home, used to being in a team environment in the office. And so we made sure that touch point was there every single day. We also did, Jackie did the same thing, a lot of town halls. We, at the start of the pandemic, we started doing them weekly and then moved to every 2 weeks. And even now today, we're doing them monthly. And we'd welcome special guests onto those calls as well. Jackie talked about some of the benefits offerings. And so we would actually welcome in experts on wellness, on meditation, mindfulness. We even did a stretching class for 15 minutes on one of them. And really helping people understand how the coronavirus was also playing out. It's one of the benefits of being part of a global organization, the fact that other parts of the globe had already gone through certain stages of the pandemic. And so we were able to learn from them. And it's, one thing that we've learned is that it's obviously the pandemic has been a marathon and not a sprint. And so, we realized as we went into the summer last year that we really needed to encourage our colleagues to be able to find a balance between work and their home lives when it's the same place, and to promoting them to use their vacation days to take time off, even if they couldn't travel, like they used to. And so we actually established things like guidelines to respect the remote working environment and try and create that separation for colleagues, who might have two working parents at home with kids as well, and therefore needing to work different hours, and being more empathetic to what all of our colleagues were going through. And one final thing that we found really extraordinary was the strength of our colleague resource groups who would come together to support each other. And those groups were critical also in advancing our inclusion and diversity journey as well. And so, really, it's not just about senior leadership who are directing. It was really about creating that community so that everybody felt that they had a voice to be able to contribute to this new way of working, a new way of being.
Well, that sounds like I think what stood out for me from what you just said was the check-in every day with someone. Yeah. I think that was probably really important for people who lived alone, I would imagine, at the time, and having the flexibility and also what you said about separating home life from work, because it feels like it's one and the same at the moment, and it is remembering that, yes, while your desk may be next door, it is remembering to look after yourself and your family. So that is really reassuring to hear that you had put those things in place so that your colleagues felt comfortable to be able to do that. And so how did the pandemic impact how you supported your clients?
Do you want to go first, Sarah, and then I'll add on?
Yeah, well, I referenced earlier on in our conversation, I've got sort of two examples, if you would. First of all, the insurance marketplace is in a very difficult position right now, and that is insurance rates are going up and have been for the last year and a half to almost 2 years. And so, our clients are in addition to trying to navigate what the impact of the pandemic has been on their own business, they're also facing increased costs on insurance, which is very difficult for a lot of companies to be able to withstand at this time. So our colleagues have been working tirelessly with our clients to be able to position their risks to the insurance community to make sure that they're getting the best terms and conditions that they possibly can in a difficult marketplace. And so that's what we do day in and day out. But there are two examples that I'd also like to highlight about coming back to supporting the Canadian economy and Canadian businesses. When the pandemic first started, we actually wrote to, and this was all of our operating companies, that we wrote to the federal minister of finance and then each of the provincial finance ministers as well, suggesting the need for a public-private partnership for future pandemics. This isn't going to be the only pandemic. And so this is something that Marsh McLennan has experience in. We were involved right after 9/11 in the US and in some of the other countries in setting up the Terrorism Reinsurance Act, which was, again, a public-private partnership. And so, working with the government to help them understand that this is not an insurance issue, this is an economic issue, and that we need to come up with a solution for the next one. And so we continue those discussions today for exactly that. And we're doing that around the world. And each of the solutions vary slightly just by jurisdiction. A little bit closer to home, we were also asked, we've got a large healthcare book of business. So a lot of senior care homes, for example, and we were asked by a client to actually support them. There's an Ontario Long-Term Care Commission that had been formed, and you may have seen they've come out recently with their report, and they were calling on organizations to come and speak to them about whether or not it was risk management, whether or not it was the best, better ways, if you would, for managing protective PEP and or PPE. And we were asked to come and support a client in terms of the challenges that they were facing in the insurance industry, because I mentioned the insurance industry is in a difficult state right now. And not surprisingly, some of the insurers were trying to contract the coverage that was actually available for infectious diseases. And so we supported that client in that submission to the Long-Term Care Commission. And then they asked us to come back again to speak to them about our ideas for making the long-term care sector more insurable. So how would you create a better risk for the long-term care sector such that the insurance capital will continue to be able to support them and write the coverage at meaningful coverage at an acceptable cost. And so, there's an example of where we were able to come together with other stakeholders to be able to truly make a potential difference down the road for the way in which this industry is insured and the way in which it's monitored. And so you wouldn't always think of insurance as being at the heart of that, but the economy doesn't function without insurance. So there's our a real sense of community of being able to contribute to the economy. Jackie, you've got some great examples too.
Yeah, so I think being able to actively work with our clients to provide the kind of both physical and mental health support that was needed was really the main thing for us. Right at the start of the pandemic, I think it's easy to forget how difficult it was and how uncertain everything was. We weren't even sure if our clients, how many of our clients would still be in business and able to pay our bills. But we, right from the start, committed that we were going to provide education and we were going to be a resource. So held biweekly webinars on every element of wellness, but also assisting our clients with figuring out how to effectively move their workforce to be remote, sharing information, sharing industry trends. It worked out, very well for us. We found that our business is stronger than ever before, but it was important for us to play that role as convener and educator right at the start, and trust that our clients would be able to come back to us for work. And so that worked out very, very well.
Yeah, that was some really great examples of how you supported your clients. So what is the greater good, and how did it guide you through your pandemic response and the fight for racial justice? Sarah?
Yeah, the greater good, it's our code of conduct at Marsh McLennan, and it guides us to earn trust by doing the right thing for our colleagues, for our clients, and for the betterment of the larger society around us. And our commitment in the greater good is to make a difference in the moments that matter. And so as individuals, as well as an organization, we inspire to make a positive impact on the businesses, the people, and the societies that we serve. And so over the last year and a half, we've lived our purpose as never before, and we've maintained this commitment to our purpose as it relates to how we supported and engaged our clients and colleagues, but also very much in our communities. And a proof point, and something that I know Jackie's very extraordinarily proud of as well, is that we have an annual volunteering event, which is all of our businesses coming together. And it's called the Good Day. In fact, it's now a good week rather than a good day now that we're doing this virtually. And it's a week dedicated to elevating our local communities and volunteering together in the community. And, as I mentioned, it's now virtual at this point, but we look forward to the day that we can go back and be out there together. And it's an extraordinary way to really feel that you can make a difference in a community. That's fundamental to our DNA. And so we're very proud of our work in corporate Canada, and over the last year and a half of what we've been able to do to give back to our communities as well.
Yeah, maybe I'll just add to that and specifically talk about our commitment to racial justice and how that relates to the greater good. So we've always had that commitment, but obviously in the wake of the terrible unfolding of events with respect to George Floyd, it just provoked a different conversation, and one that for me obviously is very personal. So really proud of a number of things. First, putting our money where our mouth is. So in the wake of that, we have to be really clear that things are not better in Canada, right? They aren't. We know that. So how do we make change? So first, externally to our organization, really proud that both Marsh and Mercer are signatories to Black North. I'm on the board of Black North. We've made concrete financial commitments to both Black North and the Black Opportunity Fund, and I'm proud to be on the board of that organization as well. Sarah Steve is actually helping the Black Opportunity Fund Board of Directors get insurance. So lots and lots of commitment to organizations that are fighting in our communities and really taking a stand to make change within our organizations, recognizing that we needed to do even more than we were doing. So very quickly, holding sessions, safe listening spaces for Black colleagues. Some of those sessions were Black only. Some were sessions that were broader with leaders. There is a big gap. It's a chasm in understanding because of different lived experiences. So we've been working to close that gap. We still have a long way to go. Very other concrete commitments we have embedded in the bonuses of our leaders, that to achieve their full bonus, 10 to 15% of that is contingent on fulfilling the commitments we've made to racial equity. We have hiring commitments. We've, I think, done a great job with Steph, who many of you will meet later, in even upping the ante in hiring more Black college and university graduates. And then very importantly, monitoring carefully the progress of people at our organizations to make sure that promotions, how we hire, all of that is fair. The final thing I'll mention is really proud that we have a program where we want to accelerate the development of people who look like Canada into our leadership. So my leadership team is diverse, but it's not diverse enough. And so we have identified emerging leaders that we think are really good candidates to be at the leadership table with all of us quickly. And they participate in a program where they actually work alongside our Canadian leadership team on concrete projects. So we get to know them, and not only do all of our existing leaders become mentors, they become sponsors, and sponsorship is so important to pulling people up. So we're far from perfect, but really proud of the work that we've done and the commitment to do more.
Yeah, that's some really good, really great examples and work that you're doing there. And I really like what you were saying about identifying the emerging leaders and preparing them for leadership. So that's fantastic. And Jackie, as a Black woman and an immigrant, how has that shaped your views on the concept of belonging? And what does that feel like for colleagues, and why is it important for your workplace?
Well, it's incredibly important, right? Because if, what we have to sell is our knowledge. What we have to sell is our ideas, our innovation. So if people come to work and they feel that they have to hide who they are or pretend to be something they're not going to be open to sharing ideas. They're not going to be comfortable. And so both from the perspective of it's just the right thing to do to have everybody feel comfortable and like they belong, but also recognizing that people do a much better job if they feel totally immersed in the culture of where they work. When I entered the workforce at 18, I worked my way through university through co-op. I remember that feeling of going into spaces where there weren't a lot of people that look like me, either from a gender or a race perspective. And people will often say, well, what's the one thing that you do that makes people feel like they belong? And there's not one thing. There's 100 little things that happen every single day, from the norms of the food you serve at events, to how you entertain your clients, to how do you talk to each other in the office, to how welcoming you are when you greet people that are different from you, to how you talk about the weekend and how open you feel you can be in talking about who you love. All those things are so important. And so it's about creating an environment where everyone is really aware of that, and where we try to celebrate all of our different characteristics and make sure people feel open.
That's great. Those are my final questions. We can go over and see if there are any questions from the audience. But in the meantime, while I am checking for questions, is there any final words that you would want to leave our audience with today?
Sarah, I'll give you the final word since I had the final question.
No, it's it's this is a really important conversation, and I think that the events of 2020 and from a social injustice perspective were horrific, and it has been, and we're not perfect at all. If we've also engaged in a similar way as Jackie has led at Mercer, about making sure that we are creating that sense of belonging and that people know they've got the license to do that, that's just part of what we stand for, and make sure that we call out bad behavior candidly. And so that's really, really important. Similar to Mercer, our industry is all about innovation and being able to bring the ideas forward. And so we need those ideas coming from everybody, and we need people feeling comfortable so that they can actually get those ideas out and express them and build upon each other's ideas as well. And so we've made some progress. We've still got an awfully long way to go, whether or not that's from a diversity perspective, or whether or not it's equity, equality, but it is, I feel much better today about the consciousness of what we're doing, and the journey from an educational perspective as well. And so, I think you've heard from both Jackie and myself how extraordinarily proud we are of our respective organizations and Marsh McLennan as a whole. And hope that this has given people some thought about what our lives are like in this industry, a series of industries, and we look forward to interest in anyone who's interested in coming in. So that door is open, and so we look forward to continuing the conversation.
That was a great concluding comment. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Jackie. It looks like we do not have any questions. Let me just do one final check. I guess must be looking forward to the networking portion. Well, thank you both for your time this afternoon, and coming together for this wonderful discussion, sharing your knowledge, insights, stories. You've really painted a picture of the organization that is showing that you are doing some fantastic things to move things forward, and the support that you're giving your colleagues. I am going to, that's me for this afternoon. I am going to hand it over to Stephanie, who will lead us into the networking portion and what to do in terms of the breakout sessions. So thank you both again for joining me. I really enjoyed our conversation. Over to you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Charmaine. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks, Steph.
Have fun, Steph.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much, Charmaine. Everyone, hi, I'm Stephanie. I am a campus recruiter for Marsh McLennan. Thank you so much for being here this afternoon. I know it's quite nice outside. Cannot wait to go myself. So I just want to give you an overview of the networking session. So right now we have a few colleagues who come from all of our business units. So actually from two of our business units being Marsh and Mercer. So you will find people from our HR consulting part of one of the network breakout room. Then we have people from our investment consulting who are also present. We have people from our risk program. So either they've done the program a few years back or they're currently in it. So please, you can go ask them questions. And finally, we have people from our risk specialties also present. So I want to encourage you all to at least visit two rooms so you can get an overview of what it is that we do, what a career at Marsh McLennan looks like, the moves that they've been able to make over the past few years, if they have a few years of experience. And also you'll get to ask me questions about recruitment. I'll be jumping from room to room, so feel free to stop me. I'll be looking forward to meeting all of you. And on that note, thank you so much, Charmaine. And I will see you all in a second. You're on mute, Charmaine.
Thank you, and enjoy the networking.